Today, yesterday, the next 3 days, we have been blessed with a truly abundant amount of rain. We're under flood warnings. We don't really have to worry about it like on our property a whole lot, although like, well, I guess we kind of do. Maybe not like flooding, but everything is completely saturated. Everything is just a massive puddle. There were puddles in our driveway that I didn't even know existed when we were getting home. So what else are we gonna do on a good old rainy week than can? Time to can us some pork. We got 2 big old leg of porks. We did not just, oh, I didn't know that was in there. Still cold. I got my PJs on. I am in full comfort mode, ready to can up 2 of these bad boys. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do like a buffer load of just one of these is just gonna be straight canned pork because we both really enjoy canned pork. It is delicious on just about anything. It's really easy. Just add some barbecue sauce, have some delicious pulled pork. I like to just add it in with eggs and make like an egg pork scramble. You can season it up. You can just cook it in a pan. It's delicious that way. I'm predominantly carnivore. I don't do any sauces really. I don't do very many vegetables, and I do a limited amount of spices. So if I just add a little bit of seasoning to the pan, it's delicious, and you can just eat it. It's delicious topped on salads. You can make like a pork salad, like a mayonnaise style, with like hard-boiled eggs or without hard-boiled eggs. I mean, when you have just plain pork, the possibilities are almost limitless. And it's already 6 o'clock, so honestly, it's probably gonna be mostly dark by the time I even finish cutting these up. So like I said, definitely vlog format. This is not a how-to can video, but first thing we gotta do is get our jars sterilized. We don't have to, but because we are pressure canning this and it's not required for pressure canning, but it's a step that I enjoy taking. So, see, one of my problems that I'm having is that 2 of my canner racks are at the kitchen because I brought them there for sterilizing jars, and the other one is stuck in the bottom of this pan that's too small for it. So I have to heat this pan up, just like, you know, for the heat contraction and whatever the opposite of contraction, expansion, so that I can get this out of there and into there. Unless I can find another one, which I can't yet. I feel like this is going to get me a double stack, so I'm gonna have to boil the jars twice because I'm boil bath canning the jars, but obviously I'm going to be pressure canning. Can't forget the vinegar. Let me preface this by saying I don't know what I'm doing as far as cutting up this bone-in ham leg, but I can't imagine it's too difficult, so here we go. I got all the pork cut up into cubes. I decided to go ahead and do both of them for the same purpose. Once I got the first one cut up, I was like, this isn't gonna fill a canner. So I went ahead and did the other one. If there's any extras, I'll probably make something with it, but I don't think there will be. I was just in here canning and just kind of jamming out to my music, and then I get a couple of emails and phone calls from some friends telling me to be careful with all the weather that's going on. Apparently, we are dangerously close to the hotbed of this Midwest massive storm, everything that's going on. So I turned off my music and started listening to Ryan Hall, and yeah, we're pretty darn central to it. So I'm not gonna listen to headphones anymore because that's just foolish in the middle of a tornadic activity going on all around us. So thankfully it's daytime, so I'm not quite as concerned. However, my hopefully very inconsiderate son is not home yet. He was supposed to be home like an hour and a half ago. He told me that he was planning on coming straight home. I tried calling him several times. I'm a worrywart, okay? Like, that's just what I do. If someone I love is not where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be, my instant everything is just like the worst. So hopefully he's just being inconsiderate. Nothing bad has happened because his phone's just going straight to voicemail and he's not replying to any of my text messages. If you're watching this in the future, Malachi, answer your concerned mother. First round is finally sanitized. I'm gonna pop those out, start filling them up, while the next round is in the canner. That's about all we're doing. And then once I get the canner rocking and rolling, I'm probably gonna go out to the storm shelter and make sure everything's all set up. We already did at the beginning of the season. Robert went out there and checked and made sure there's nothing living in there. But, you know, just go ahead and put the bug out bag in there because the storm's supposed to last like today and tomorrow. It's supposed to be a pretty massive one. So I've already gotten a pretty torrential amount of rain. And thankfully it's not raining right now and the wind has really died down, so that's not necessarily a good thing. Nope. Tried calling again, still went to voicemail. I don't know. It's not like him. He's usually pretty quick on the spot. And he told me that he was going to come right home. He would know I'd be worried because that's just what I freaking do. I can't just live my life in peace. Hello? Where are you? Where was he stuck at? Oh, right in the dead zone. So is your truck stuck down there? Oh, so you had to walk through that river? Oh. Wait, so are you stuck down at the bottom of the hill? Well, you had me freaking worried as all get out. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Surprisingly, when you have an extra like 5 pounds of water in your boots,
it makes your feet heavier. So it's like almost up to your crotch.
Mm-hmm.
You had to walk through that?
Uh-huh.
It was raining hard. As soon as we had to go pick up the pigs from the butcher, and we picked the perfect time because it was like torrential downpour all morning. And then I looked at the radar and I was like, okay, like around 2 o'clock it's supposed to stop. I think around like 1 o'clock we left, picked it up, got back here, and as we got everything into the garage and we were unloading it, it was like the loudest hail I've ever heard in my life. It was like, it had to have been at least 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch hail.
oh, geez.
And we were in the garage, there's no insulation, it's the tin roof. I legitimately had to plug my ears, it was so loud.
Holy crap.
He made it home. Apparently he got stuck at the bottom of our hill for hours. You a bottomed out UPS truck, and there's no service at the bottom of the hill, so he could not. And point to where your water is.
Right here.
That was the water that he had to get through. We have rivers that like to flow over our roads when it gets really rainy. So thankfully that makes sense. I figured I hoped that you had just lost service because like it would pause for like 20 seconds and then it would go to voicemail. Like it wasn't like an instant, like you'd shut off your phone. It was
you have one bar at there, but it just does never connect.
Yeah. So he's home and he's going to show me the footage of what he was talking about and I'll show you guys. So we are on day 4 of this storm. So we got another rainy day project. The other day I ended up getting, I don't know if I told you, but I got 15 pint-sized jars. I let them set on the counter undisturbed for 24 hours. That time was up last night. I scrubbed them up this morning and these are ready to go on the pantry shelf once I mark them. Today's project, however, is a little bigger and it's going to take longer. We need to process 2 of these bags. 2 of these bags of fat. I'm going to try and do it in one foul swoop. They're thawed out. Okay. I'm gonna I don't know how I'm gonna process these. Okay, so I do have man, it is really coming down out there. I do have a meat grinder. However, it's a really bad meat grinder. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10 stars. So I totally forgot to ask the butchers to grind this, and so I'm gonna pay the price now. I may just throw it all in the crock pot or the roasting pan or both. Honestly, I think I'm gonna end up with like 4 or 5 different containers processing these all day. Holy schmoly, guys. The first step with this stuff is just gonna be opening up a bag and seeing what form it came in. This is gonna take so long. See, the best way to do this is to run them through the run them through the meat grinder frozen, especially with mine, because it can get backed up and it'll pop off. Like the plate will pop off. So that's the best way to do it. But this is a lot of fat to process, to refreeze. Well, it's not complete. You don't want it to be totally frozen. You want it to be like 3/4 of the way frozen. And it just helps, for whatever reason, it helps the grinder to operate better. But at this scale, this is only one of 2 bags. I have another bag of equal weight. So it's a lot. So let's open up one of these bags and see what we're working with here. And also, in all likelihood, I'm gonna end up having to process this in several batches, just because, like I said, this is not a commercial meat grinder. So it's only gonna do so well. And the problem is, it's plastic, and when it gets to be enough pressure, this thing pops right off in your face. Ask me how I know. Oh, I have the best butcher in the world. It looks like they ground it for me. Y'all have, oh my gosh, didn't even ask. It just knew. That one thing probably saved me like many hours of work today. I'm so stoked. Oh, I hope they're all like that. I'm really getting my hopes up here. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside just in case maybe we need it for the other bag, because each bag is 2 different processings. And then we're gonna trade out the mixer for the roasting pan. I know with a lot of people, kind of the norm for doing this is to add a little bit of water to the bottom of the pot. It kind of just helps to heat things up a little bit and move it along. But I don't usually like to do that. I mean, there's a fly in here. I still don't know if I'm going to. My reason for that is that you have to cook it a lot longer to evaporate the water, and if you don't make sure to evaporate all of the water, it's not gonna be shelf stable, because these, once they are processed, they can be completely shelf stable. You just make sure to put them in sterilized jars, new lids, and or sanitized, sterilized, whatever. You boil bath can them for at least 10 minutes, and you put them straight into the jars, the dry, hot jars. So I find you just have to cook it for a lot longer to cook off the water. I don't want to do that. So I think I'm not going to add it. I'm just going to go ahead and let this thing heat up just ever so slightly. It's at 150 degrees. So we're just going to like slow cook this sucker all day. Most likely. I mean, it's a pretty big batch. And honestly, I'm going to weigh each of these bags because I have to know. I just have to. It's like morbid curiosity. There's no reason. It doesn't matter, but I want to know. 11 pounds, 6 ounces. Obviously, we will not be reusing these bags, so you can cut them open. And basically, all we're trying to do with this, we're not cooking it, we're melting it at a very, very low temperature. Oh gosh, that took up a significant portion of that. Oh my, this is not gonna be one crock pot load. 11 pounds, 8 ounces. 150 is too hot. If you hear it sizzling, it's too hot. If it's just leaf lard, it's probably gonna not have a lot of moisture to it, but I'm pretty confident that this is body fat as well as the leaf lard. So it's gonna have extra moisture. There's gonna be extra bits left in there, which are really tasty. So we're just gonna throw the lid on here and load up something else. I'm so excited to get this done. And one neat thing that a lot of people, myself included until recently, may not realize about fats that have gone rancid. This stuff will last, in my experience, a very long time on the shelf. As long as it stays at a moderate temperature, moderately cool temperature, the cooler the better. You can even throw this in the fridge, the freezer, and it'll last longer that way. But if you just have a decently cool room to store this in, it'll last a long time. In my experience, people say that it doesn't last terribly long, but my experience has been otherwise. We're talking like We still have stuff that we brought from Washington 2 years ago, and we made it like 2 years prior to that. I'm not saying everything's gonna last that long, but that's been our experience. But once it does go rancid, you can still use it to make soap, and the saponification process will get rid of that rancid smell. I haven't done it yet. My husband told me about it, and so that is an option. If you do have a tremendous amount of lard like we do, you can always just turn it into soap. Next up is a crock pot. I'm gonna get that guy out of the way. I will never understand why every manufacturer that I've seen of crock pots thinks that we want a cord this short. I don't. I want a longer cord, guys. And just turn it to keep warm, the lowest setting possible, especially for this raging crock pot. Alrighty. This one feels a little smaller. A lot smaller. 6 pounds, 9 ounces. 8 pounds, 2 ounces. And with these lard, I'm planning on throwing them into quart-sized jars because that's what we have an abundance of. Most of the stuff that we can these days is in the pint-sized jars. I used to do a lot of quarts before I realized quarts is just too much for us. So we just have an abundance of quart-sized jars. Makes sense to do this in the quart-sized jars for us. Because usually when we use the lard, well, usually when my husband uses the lard, he uses it to fry stuff, like fried chicken or whatever he wants to on the stovetop, and a quart-sized jar is just about right for that. So it kind of just makes sense. 4 pounds, 7 ounces, 7 pounds, 9 ounces. I'm gonna let these guys go ahead and settle a little bit, melt some, and then I should be able to put, I have plenty more space in that stock pot, but it's only heating from the bottom, and it's not gonna like radiate it like it does with these. So I wanna get it a little bit more cooked down before I add anything else to it. So over here, let's weigh these. 7 pounds, 1 ounces, 4 pounds, 13 ounces, 5 pounds, 2 ounces on the nose. Yeah, this is kind of just gonna be the rest of my day. I might end up running to the kitchen to check on some things, but I don't have to, so it doesn't really matter if I don't. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I ran to town, gone for a couple hours, checked on everything at the kitchen, and now I'm back. And you can kind of see, I hope you can see how liquidy this is. So it's just doing what it's supposed to do. The pot on the stove, I didn't have it hot enough. Let me show you. I didn't have it hot enough, so it kind of just re-solidified. This one's running a bit too hot. You can see it's almost completely melted, so maybe I'm not running it too hot. Maybe it's just right. So I think it's time to go ahead and sanitize 1 round of jars, and then we'll filter that out, and whatever's left over, we'll just put it back in. Usually when I'm doing this, I'll do several different rounds of filtrations, and then you'll notice that each one gets darker because it's cooking more and it's getting more of the porky flavor.
I ordered new lenses for my sunglasses. They were supposed to be here.
All right, so it is, I think like 3 days later, and we got basically all of it finished. I ended up getting 29 quart-sized jars. This is a pint, and then this one is a half of a jar, so I just counted that as one. We have a little bit of round number 2 left over in the pot. I'm just gonna go ahead and jar that up here in just a few minutes. We got a little bit sidelined. Those of you who saw my post know what I'm talking about. As I was processing, I came over to the never mind the mess, I haven't had a chance to clean up yet. But as I was processing, I went over there to the cupboard. I was gonna grab something from underneath the counter, and I feel this drip coming on my face. I look up, my whole counter's wet. Then I look up, and the whole ceiling is leaking. I freaked out, called Robert. Thank God that he was home and Malachi was home. Apparently, this was caused by the AC compressor in the ceiling, the pipe that they ran from the compressor outside to alleviate excess moisture had a pretty big hairline crack in it. And we don't know how long it's been leaking up there. Malachi went up there and he was able to, it's a very tight space. It's you know, it's like this part of the roof. It's very, very tiny up there. And Malachi and Robert were able to get that fixed and then tore out the insulation. We threw 2 box fans up there plus this little one up there. We're hoping that we can get it, we're hoping that we can get the structure of it dried enough, and in a couple weeks we'll be able to tell if it's going to mold or not, and hopefully it won't mold because you know it's going to be an expensive fix to replace all of that part of the structure. So hopefully, you know, tearing out the insulation and putting the box fans up there, there's lots of ventilation up there, like the whole roof is vented, so hopefully that will be enough to be able to prevent the mold. But yeah, it's not been a good couple days. So at any rate, if you guys are interested in a more detailed how to render lard, tallow, whatever it may be, check out this video right here. That'll give you all the info you need, and peace out, sauerkraut.